Hi, everyone. My name is Dennis Sonoiya. I'm an engineer with the Communications Authority of Kenya. I am also a part-time student with StrathSDR, conducting research on dynamic spectrum management and applications. My main role is to coordinate with mobile network operators to optimize coverage for broadband network deployments in Kenya. I also occasionally provide technical support to the Universal Service Fund with the design of projects and interventions targeting underserved populations. The fund holds £100 million for disbursement to operators, primarily for broadband access projects in rural areas. The work we're currently doing with the various partners that I mentioned briefly, it builds on previous initiatives led by Microsoft for Africa program with Project Mawingu, who worked with partners like Adaptram, Six Harmonics, and Nominate. Importantly, the photograph at the top of the slide is indicative of the current Kenya situation, where we have approximately 55% of the total population of Kenya who live in informal settlements. So this is a man installing a rooftop antenna on a tin roofed hut. And also importantly, 70% of Kenya's population live in rural areas. So with this in mind, we came up with a multi-stakeholder partnership supported by the UK aid program, by the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, with the University of StrathSDR, Strathmore University of Kenya, the Association for Progressive Communications, who are a multinational civil society organization promoting community network adoption around the world. Martha is on the webinar as well. Thank you, Martha. The Dynamic Spectrum Alliance has been our key partner. We also have the Kenya SDR Action Network, a non-profit government, para-government lobby organization, and Fair Spectrum, of course, the famous geolocation database service provider. So this partnership sort of came together maybe 2.5 years ago, and also had a preliminary work around TV white spaces, but ultimately it came to fruition during the pandemic when the situation became dire for everyone. If you could please go to the second slide, please. Well, so what are the key statistics about Kenya's ICT sector? Do we really have digital transformation? Is it inclusive? Importantly, 22% of Kenyans use digital services to only access basic services, including sending and receiving money. 85% of rural residents and 45% with disabilities and 44% of older people are either non-users of spectrum or only use of services or only use basic services. 35% of women are advanced digital service users, which is a lower statistic than the men. Inequalities have been accelerated quite rapidly by the COVID-19 pandemic. And only 8 days ago, Kenya lifted one of the world's longest COVID curfews, which lasted 19 months. And so these statistics could not have been improved. And there was no safety net for majority of those impoverished or living close to the poverty line. And a number of key challenges limit basic digital services access, usually due to mobile money. So 69% have no access to the internet. So that's an infrastructure problem. We have 95% have only basic phones. That's a device problem. 54% cannot pay for the internet connection, which is a cost issue. 69% need help. 71% who use shared devices are allowed less time by their family members. If you go to the next slide, please. As mentioned by Tawachi, and also highlighted earlier by Martha, these statistics are not unique to Kenya. They are widespread across Latin America, Asia Pacific, and Africa, and predominantly affects women in underserved areas and the elderly. Also, individuals with low education attainment often remain unconnected. So the key issues of lack of infrastructure, non-affordability, lack of skills, and lack of digital content form a sort of a cocktail of bad factors that can limit access to communication services. Then comes the opportunity for community networks. Currently, all mobile networks in Kenya are operated by private entities who pay millions of dollars in taxes and regulatory fees. So we cannot fault a private entity from justifiably focusing on their return on investment. Importantly, the average monthly revenue per user in Kenya is approximately $3 a month, which is lower in rural areas and possibly in some areas extremely low. And these could be areas that fall in the true gap, where even a universal service fund subsidy cannot make the lot viable for a mobile network operator, even if they receive maybe a $300,000 subsidy or something for a network installation. So these factors at the height of the pandemic prompted the Kenyan government to introduce, on the fourth slide, the next, to introduce community networks framework. And so the government has taken deliberate action to encourage and support communities. A community network is one that can support and provide connectivity to schools, community centers, and run by local youth and women. And they can also provide capacity building to the teachers and the youth. So from the licensing perspective, ordinarily a commercial network facilities provider in Kenya would incur costs of around $5,000 to establish a network at the bare minimum, simply for registration and the attendant costs. For the community networks, this has been reduced significantly with a 10-year term, the simplified application requirements and fit-for-purpose quarterly compliance reporting, not to overly burden the community, limited in geographic scope to a small area, and is limited really to non-profits, so community-based organizations, NGOs, and cooperative societies. For spectrum, there's a comprehensive fee waiver for access to spectrum. There's a proposal to establish a regulatory sandbox for localized spectrum access for small operators, and plans are quite underway, working with partners at StrathClyde and our international partners mentioned earlier, including the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, to develop a framework for dynamic spectrum assignment for IMT. All this will lead to improved local control over how a network is established and operated. At least it removes the foreign investment or the private sector investment, though many of these communities could benefit from donations. Currently, they use Wi-Fi equipment donated by especially from other countries or other partners like the Internet Society. And these community networks are likely to pay a greater attention to gender and age gaps and community needs, which would really help in the COVID-19 response and would foster the digital ecosystem. Production of content and skills, etc., would uplift the community and will lead to digital upskilling, and there will be lower cost and retention of funds and skills in the community. So this is a case of where technology meets policy, and especially during a pandemic, this was extremely vital. And we thank all the partners mentioned, and the full framework is at the link at the bottom of the slide. Thank you, Bob. I've taken 4 minutes.